Imagine waking up tomorrow on another world. What would you even see? Venus is hot enough to melt lead on its surface, where the air itself would crush you. And yet, many planets out there are even more brutal than that. Come with me, and let's walk through a full day, from the hellish plains of Venus to the icy storms of Neptune. You step off the ramp, and the air hits you like a physical wall. It's not just heat, it's a crushing, suffocating weight that presses against your chest, and your lungs burn with the very first breath you dare to take. The ground beneath you glows with a dull, ominous orange, and your senses scream for only a few seconds before they begin to go numb. According to the NASA Planetary Fact Sheet from 2024, the surface temperature of Venus averages 465 degrees Celsius, which is hot enough to melt lead on contact. Imagine stepping into an oven that's been preheated to its maximum setting, but the air is so thick it feels like you're swimming through molten metal. The heat isn't just on your skin, it radiates from the ground, from the air, from every direction at once, until you can't tell where your body ends and the planet begins. But the heat is only half the story, because the atmosphere here isn't just hot, it's heavy. The pressure on the surface of Venus is equivalent to what you'd feel 900 meters beneath Earth's ocean. A force strong enough to crush a spacecraft like an empty soda can. Every inch of your body is squeezed, and your ribs creak under the weight of an entire atmosphere pressing down, trying to collapse your lungs back into nothing. And if you could somehow survive the heat and the pressure, the air itself is a poison. The clouds above Venus are filled with concentrated sulfuric acid, not water vapor like we have on Earth, and it doesn't rain, it eats. The metal of your ship starts to sizzle and streak within moments, and you can feel a sharp, acrid sting on any exposed skin, like a chemical burn that spreads with every second you stay. In 1982, the Soviet spacecraft Venera 13 actually managed to land on this hellish surface. It survived for just 127 minutes, long enough to send back the first color photographs of the alien landscape, before the heat and pressure destroyed it completely. That's the reality of Venus, a world that can crush, melt, and dissolve a machine built by human hands in less than 2 hours. So, you want to build a day in the life here? Start with that 465-degree heat and 92 bars of pressure as your baseline. Describe the air burning your throat with acid even as it squeezes your bones. Remember that the sun is barely a dim glow through the thick yellow clouds, so you'll never see the light. And end your day the only way it can end, vaporized and scattered into the storm within minutes. Would you dare to step out of the ship? You wake up and the sun is frozen. Not frozen in time, but fixed in the sky, a blistering silent eye staring down at a world that cannot breathe. You step off the lander onto ground so cracked it looks like a shattered mosaic stretching to an endless horizon of black. The sky isn't blue, it's the void of space itself. A canopy of eternal night with a sun 3 times larger than you have ever seen, yet the stars are visible, sharp and unwinking. There is no air, not a whisper of wind, just an oppressive stillness that makes you feel weightless, as if you are floating in a silent, scorching dream. But here's the twist. This day will not end quickly because a single day on Mercury, the full spin of this world, lasts about 59 Earth days. Think about that. 59 days of this unrelenting fire, this crushing quiet, this bizarre sunlit emptiness. According to NASA, a year on Mercury zips by in just 88 Earth days, which means you could live through an entire season of your life in less time than it takes for this one single agonizing day to finish. And the real shock, the one that makes you question everything you thought you knew, comes with the night, because when that frozen sun finally sets, the temperature doesn't just drop. It plummets from a hellish 430 degrees Celsius down to a bone-shattering minus 180 degrees Celsius, a swing of over 600 degrees. NASA has recorded this dramatic temperature difference, a range that would crack your ship's hull like an eggshell. This means on Mercury, you don't just experience heat. You experience a planet that is a furnace by day and a deep freeze by night, with no atmosphere to hold on to any of that warmth. Now picture the landscape around you, because it is the most alien sight imaginable. If you were standing on the surface of Mercury during the day, the sun would appear 3 times larger than it does from Earth, and the sky would be pitch black, not the familiar blue you know. NASA describes this stark reality where the stars are always out, and the sun is a giant, blazing disk of death in a sea of endless night. You might have thought that being closest to the sun makes Mercury the hottest planet, but you'd be wrong, and that's the cosmic joke. The title of hottest planet goes to Venus, which is actually further away but suffers from a massive greenhouse effect that traps heat, while Mercury, with its lack of atmosphere, just bakes and then freezes. So, to survive this world, you'd have to follow a brutal routine. First, you mark the start of your day with the heat of 600 degrees separating day and night, a fact you'd feel in your bones. Second, you remember that your day lasts 59 Earth days, a staggering stretch of time that tests your sanity. Third, you look up at that black sky and see the sun as a giant silent threat, not a source of life. And finally, you brace for the moment the sun vanishes, plunging you into a cold so profound it feels like the universe itself is trying to erase you. Could you endure the full cycle, or would you break between the two extremes of a world that refuses to be tamed? You wake up on Mars and the first thing you see is a sunrise painted blue, not orange or red like you would expect, but a soft electric blue creeping over the rust-colored horizon. You step out of the lander, and for one fleeting second, it feels almost peaceful, like a cold desert morning back home. But the peace is a lie, because your lungs are already burning, and the air you are breathing is thinner than anything you have ever felt. The blue light fades, and you realize the beauty here is a trap, and you have to focus on surviving every single second of this alien day. The precious calm of that blue dawn is a direct result of the dust itself. According to NASA in 2023, the fine particles in the Martian atmosphere scatter the red light away, leaving more blue light to reach your eyes, which is why the sky turns this strange shade at sunrise and sunset. So you are not looking at a clear sky. You are looking at a planet covered in a permanent fine powder that turns the sun into a cold sapphire jewel. You take a moment to admire it, but you also remember that this same dust is what will kill you if you are not careful. The ground is rocky and cold, and you shift your weight in your suit, knowing you cannot stay here for long. The temperature on this world is a study in extremes, and it does not care about your comfort. The average temperature sits at a brutal -63 degrees Celsius, but the numbers from NASA in 2024 tell a wilder story, with highs of 20 degrees at the equator during the day and plunging to -153 degrees at the poles at night. You feel the chill seeping through the soles of your boots, a constant reminder that this is not a vacation spot. You are standing in a place where a single error in your suit's regulation could freeze you solid or, if you are unlucky enough to be in the sun, overheat you within an hour. How do you even begin to dress for a place that swings through 170 degrees in a single cycle? You are not just surviving the cold, you are surviving the planet's violent mood swings. And then there is the air, or rather, the complete absence of anything you can use. The atmosphere here is a ghost, about 100 times thinner than what you are used to on Earth. NASA's 2024 fact sheet confirms it is mostly carbon dioxide, over 95% of it, which means you cannot breathe, and without a pressurized suit, the fluid in your body would start to boil at your normal body temperature. You take a slow, deliberate breath inside your helmet, listening to the hum of the oxygen pump, and you are suddenly aware of how fragile your life support system really is. The moment you think you can rely on the Martian environment, it will turn your blood into vapor. Is this the price we are willing to pay to see a blue sunrise that no one back home will ever believe? But you are not entirely alone in this wasteland, because there is a small machine that defied the odds. Far above you, or sometimes buzzing just past your view, is the history of humanity's persistence in the form of ingenuity. This little helicopter, built by NASA, completed 72 flights on Mars, pushing itself across the terrain and setting a record of 704 meters in a single journey. You look up and imagine it flying through that thin air, proving that powered flight is possible even here. It is a tiny beacon of hope against the vast, dead landscape, a reminder that we are actively exploring this world, even if it is trying to kill us. You almost feel a sense of pride, watching a machine do what the human body never could. That fragile hope, however, is threatened by the weather you cannot control or predict. This planet is famous for its global dust storms, which NASA has monitored since at least 2022, and they are terrifying in scale. These storms can cover the entire planet for months at a time, and they are so thick that they can block out up to 99% of the sunlight hitting the surface, plunging everything into a dark, suffocating twilight. You look toward the horizon and see a faint, yellowish haze beginning to build, and your heart sinks. You know that a single storm like that could end your mission, covering your solar panels and leaving you powerless in the freezing dark. Imagine standing in that endless twilight, listening to the wind scream against your hull, not knowing if the sun will ever come back. To survive a day here, you have to build the experience piece by piece, according to the engineers who plan these missions. First, you start with the blue dawn, that beautiful, misleading signal of a new day. Second, you introduce the threat of the global storm, a wall of dust that can darken everything. Third, you emphasize the fragility of the CO2 atmosphere, the invisible enemy that makes every breath a calculated risk. And finally, you tie it all back to the future, to the arrival of vehicles like Ingenuity and the larger rover Perseverance, which are our eyes and hands in this hostile place. You try to construct a routine out of chaos, but you know that the only guarantee on Mars is that nothing is guaranteed. So you stand there, taking in the final rays of the blue sun, and you ask yourself the only question that matters. Would you dare to take off your helmet and breathe? Because the beauty of the Martian morning is not a reward, it is a warning. And it is telling you that you are a guest here, an uninvited one, and this planet will devour you the moment you show weakness. You step off the descent module, and there is no ground. Your boot finds nothing but thinning atmosphere, and suddenly you are falling, not through air, but into an endless swirling abyss of ammonia clouds and hydrogen gas. There is no solid surface to catch you, no platform to anchor yourself, only the sickening sensation of spinning into a bottomless ocean of storm. Jupiter possesses no solid surface at all. It is a colossal sphere of gas, and if you attempt to land, you simply sink forever. According to NASA's data from 2023, you would plunge deeper into the atmosphere where pressure and heat rise catastrophically, crushing and then liquefying your body long before you reach any central core. There is no point of resistance, just the weight of an entire planet pressing down on you without mercy. Before you even hit those crushing depths, the radiation would already be killing you. Jupiter wields the most powerful magnetic field in our solar system, a force 20,000 times stronger than Earth's own, as recorded by NASA in 2023. Exposure to its radiation belts delivers a lethal dose within hours, cooking cells and frying nerves inside your suit, making survival impossible even if the fall were gentle. You might think the descent is the worst part, but deep inside, the planet itself radiates heat that defies logic. The core is estimated to reach 24,000 degrees Celsius, far hotter than the surface of the Sun, according to NASA's figures from 2023. Jupiter emits more energy than it receives from our star, powered by gravitational contraction, a slow, violent squeeze that turns your final moments into an inferno. And yet we sent a machine into that chaos. The Juno probe, launched by NASA in 2011 and arriving in 2016, made rapid polar flybys to study the storms and the immense magnetic field below. Juno's results, as NASA reported in 2024, revealed an atmosphere far more complex than scientists ever imagined, with structures and dynamics that defy earlier models. So, if you ever try to explore the gas giants, remember there is nowhere to stand. Compare the crushing gravity and lethal radiation, and understand that winds here move faster than the speed of sound, tearing through your body before you even process the fall. And if you manage to survive that, look toward the moons, where Europa holds an ocean beneath its ice, a strange mercy in a world designed to kill. How long do you want to fall, knowing that for at least 350 years, a single storm called the Great Red Spot has been raging beside you, a hurricane wider than our entire planet, spinning above your doomed, tumbling descent? Imagine stepping out onto a surface that crunches like fresh snow, but instead of Earth, it is countless shards of glittering ice suspended in the void. You are standing within the rings of Saturn, a place so vast yet so impossibly thin it feels like a cosmic mirage. The sky above you is not a dome, but a silent, star-filled blackness, punctuated by the soft, ethereal glow of a million frozen crystals drifting past your visor. The enormity of the scene is breathtaking, a silent ballet of debris that has been orbiting for eons. Your every step kicks up a cloud of icy dust that hangs in the air, moving with a dreamlike slowness. There is no real gravity here to anchor you, just a profound sense of weightlessness that makes you feel like a ghost in a cathedral of ice. The silence is deafening in its perfection, broken only by the low hum of your own suit's life support. You are a tiny speck against an endless, beautiful expanse that could swallow you without a trace. How can something so delicate-looking hold such a secret, silent threat? The sheer scale of this spectacle is almost impossible to process, as the rings themselves are an exercise in extreme proportions. According to NASA, this entire system of ice and rock stretches out across an incredible 282,000 kilometers, a distance that would dwarf the space between Earth and its moon. Yet, for all that immense width, the rings are barely a physical presence, with an average thickness of only about 10 meters. That means they are proportionally thinner than a single sheet of paper laid across a football field, a razor's edge of matter circling a giant planet. It is a staggering paradox that a structure so wide can be so utterly insubstantial. You could fly through them and barely register their presence, a thought that feels both liberating and unsettling. The beauty is held in that precarious balance of fragile geometry in the vastness of space. But the real danger of this world does not lie in the ice you can see, but in the invisible forces that rage around you. Beyond the visual splendor, the atmosphere of Saturn is a churning, violent ocean of gas with winds that defy earthly comparison. The planet's upper atmosphere hosts winds that can scream at a staggering 1,800 kilometers per hour, faster than the speed of sound on Earth. In those gusts, the air itself becomes a weapon, a relentless force that would shred any structure and any being that dared to challenge it. These winds dwarf the most powerful hurricanes ever recorded on Earth, turning them into mere breezes in comparison. The sheer power is unfathomable, a constant planet-wide storm that has no surface to wear itself out against. It is a reminder that Saturn is not a solid world, but a colossal, seething ball of gas and weather. The very air that appears so serene from a distance is a fast-moving torrent that could tear you apart, a stark contrast to the silent, frozen rings above. Yet for all its violent atmosphere, Saturn holds a secret that seems to defy logic. This gas giant has the lowest density of any planet in our solar system, a fact that leads to a truly mind-bending conclusion. According to NASA, Saturn's average density is actually lower than that of water, which means it would float if you could find a bathtub big enough to hold it. Picture that for a moment. A planet so large it could hold 1,000 Earths, bobbing gently like a rubber duck in a cosmic tub. The mental image is almost comical, a giant of the heavens being lighter than a liquid we use to wash our hands. But this low density is also what makes the planet so unforgiving, as there is no solid ground to stand on. You would fall forever through the clouds, descending into an atmosphere where pressure and heat increase until they crush you without end. This is not a planet that offers refuge. It is a beautiful, floating monster that simply swallows you whole. The final story of our journey to this ringed world is one of a noble, deliberate end, as the Cassini spacecraft chose to become one with Saturn. After over a decade of exploration, NASA and ESA's Cassini mission concluded in 2017 by diving directly into the planet's atmosphere. It sent back precious data about the planet's composition and its rings until that final moment when its signal was silenced after 30 seconds of descent. For those brief seconds, the probe transmitted its last whispers of discovery, capturing details no human could have ever witnessed. Then, it was erased, becoming just another piece of debris lost in the maelstrom. That final goodbye was not a failure, but a final heroic act of science, a testament to our relentless pursuit of knowledge. It is a haunting thought that our ambassador met its end in that swirling, silent fury, paving the way for us to understand what we see. So, here is your guide to building a day on this planet of breathtaking paradoxes. Begin by establishing that there is no solid surface, only a deep, endless atmosphere of gas. Then, introduce the impossible fact of its density, comparing it to water and imagining that mythical bathtub. Explain the relentless, supersonic winds that define its weather, and conclude with the lasting image of a planet that could float on water. Now, with a world this strange, would you trust the physics of a planet that defies common sense? The beauty is real, but the death it offers is just as certain and just as magnificent. Do you believe a planet can truly float on water? You wake up on a world that never turns its face away from the sun. Half of it is locked in an endless, silent noon, while the other half is trapped in a